Hello, CWCC. Welcome to Girls Club. I'm super excited about who we have today. My dear, dear friend, Heidi Williams, and many of you will know her because she was with the Women's Chamber and was an amazing, amazing leader in helping to turn the organization around. And I miss working with her every day dearly. Heidi, why don't you tell our members who don't know you already about you?
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Kristen. Yeah, I worked for the Women's Chamber a few years ago, and it was really fun to work side by side with Kristen and the team and really, recruit new members and really build the chamber back up. And I'm so excited that it's just doing so well. I am formerly the mayor of Thornton. I was the mayor for 8 years and was term limited at the end of 2019. So I've had a year off of not having to be the mayor, which has been great. So I went from like never being home to always being home. So my family's still a little confused about why I'm here. But I'm also working for the Attorney General. I'm the director of Opioid Response, and I'm working on helping figure out how to distribute the funds that come in from the opioid crisis litigation and settlements. And so we have several of those going on at one time, and we actually just got one settlement done. So Colorado will see about $10 million come in the next couple of months to the state. And so we'll start with that, but we have lots and lots more money coming in, probably, in the hundreds of millions of dollars over 18 years. And so it'll be a sustainable funding source for us to really work on abating the opioid crisis in the state.
Well, I'll never forget the day, Heidi, that you told me you were leaving, and I started crying. I don't remember, you're like, oh my gosh, are you crying? I'm like, no, I'm happy for you, but I'm just gonna miss working with you so much because you bring such passion to everything you do. So, I mean, I guess in some way, shape, or form, it gives me peace to know that you're doing such incredible work, especially because you and I sort of share that passion for addiction. And it's just so good to know that we're going to have money coming into the state to help with it. What are some of the things that, programs, is there anything that you kind of have on the forefront that you can share with us that you'll be doing?
Absolutely. And, I'll preface it by saying over 4,000 people in the last decade in Colorado have lost their lives to prescription opioid overdose. And then you can add another 2,000 to heroin and fentanyl. And obviously we know that fentanyl is a big thing on the market right now, and we're losing people left and right. It's a horrific epidemic. And like you, I have addiction in my family. And I think most people who hear this, that watch this newsletter, will be able to relate in some way, shape, or form. And so the great news is that we'll have some boundaries so that we don't have another tobacco settlement where nationally only 3.5% of the money is going to actual nicotine or tobacco abatement. This money is really going to be designated for opioid abatement. And so there's very little room for administrative. Obviously, you have to have a small percentage to administrative, but the great news is that we'll have treatment, recovery, harm reduction, prevention education, and then law enforcement. So kind of criminal justice reform, like getting more drug courts, getting people diverted from, some people really don't need to be in jail. They need to be in treatment. Some people need to be in jail and receive treatment in jail. So, and then also figuring out those, how do we connect people after jail to services? Because we know that people who, if they come out of jail and they go back and they use the same amount of drugs, heroin or what have you, that they did before, they're 100 times more likely to overdose. And so we're trying to figure out, how do we as a state get people connected from jail to services? And that's where a lot of the gaps are, is the recovery side. Getting, you can put somebody in a 28-day program or whatever you want to call it, but then getting them into recovery is really the key, because relapse is part of recovery, as you know. And so we need to get people into a long-term recovery program that can help their brain totally kind of, reprogram, if you will, and get them to a life of sobriety. But it's a challenge. And I didn't know a lot of that before I started working here. So it's been really enlightening and eye-opening to me, to help me understand, it's really a physical disease. It's not like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Like that's how we were raised. Like, just stop doing it. It doesn't work that way.
It doesn't. And, especially, I mean, I know addiction is like that just in general, it rewires your brain, but then opioid addiction is even worse. And I've lost 2 family members to exactly what you're talking about. They were in recovery, they got out, and they did the same amount and they died instantly. So it's, and that's just me, one person. I can't imagine how many people, experience that. So thank you for the work that you're doing. And kind of speaking of, the road to recovery with addiction, I'm going to move into the questions because I know you have had such an incredible journey in your life. And so I thought you could share with our members a time in your life when you've persevered and how you came out of it.
Sure. Well, I opened a business in Colorado in 2006 in Thornton, and it was a uniform store. It's what I had been doing for 10 years. I'd been running somebody else's company. And I thought, well, I'm just going to open my own store. It's going to be so much better. And it was for a long time. But when I opened the store, the city made me real mad. So, it's always a hassle to open a business, especially if you have to do a build out and deal with the permits and everything. And so I got, pretty irritated. And so, several years into it, probably about 10 years into it, I told my husband, I'm like, I should just run for mayor. Like, they just really need some help figuring out how to do a better job for businesses, especially small business owners. So I went down that path, and I actually did win mayor. So that was like, what the heck just happened? I don't know how I just won, but I won the mayor position. But at the same time, my business was struggling from the kind of the backlash of the Great Recession, right? So that kind of started at the end of 2008, and I made it to 2012, early 2012, and then it was just very obvious that we just needed to like cut bait and be done with it. And it was really hard for me, and I actually worked in the business for another year for a friend of mine. And then one day I just woke up and I was like, look, I can't do this anymore. It's physically draining. It's emotionally draining. The guy I was working for really didn't know what he was doing. So that was frustrating. And so I went back to school, and I got my undergraduate in political science and my master's degree in public administration in about 5 years, in my 40s, with 2 kids at home and being the mayor. I feel like I just was, I don't know if it was persevering or just like clawing my way through it, right? Because everybody's like, how are you doing all this? I don't know how I did it. I just did it because I needed to get to the next step in my life, because I knew that I wanted to do something in government.
Right.
And I didn't want to be an elected official forever. I mean, I think our founding fathers really didn't think that people should be lifelong politicians. And that's not really a huge dream of mine. I've had thoughts of it, and it just isn't appealing anymore. So I'm glad that I did it. And I feel like I'm kind of a success story in that sense, that I was able to get my degree. But I have to say, it's because I had support. I had support from my employers. I had support from my family. I mean, if I didn't have my mother-in-law and my husband, helping with the kids, that would have been a nightmare. So, I was just really blessed to be able to kind of get that done.
Yeah, it's interesting, at a time in your life when there was chaos going on, you went and sought, I wouldn't say it's other chaos, but you like pivoted and started doing something else. Like, I hear from a lot of women, like, I put my head down, I went and worked out, I, sought the support of my friends. Talk a little bit about how you were like, okay, that's done, I'm going here. Like, and you just like pivoted.
Yeah. And I kind of remember driving in the car. I don't know where I was going. I was on I-25, which, is the norm for all of us, right? So I was on I-25, and I was thinking, I was like praying, I'm like, God, I don't understand why this happened to me. Like, I worked really hard, and I was so proud of being a business owner. And I just felt like it was a door that closed because another door needed to open. And I just had this passion for kind of this government or political system that we have in the United States. And I'm so proud of it. And I just wanted to be more of a part of it. And I really wanted to be on the staff side. So being an elected official is kind of weird, because everybody thinks you have all this power or all this control, and you actually have very little. You're making policy, but you're not implementing. It's like you're not building anything, right? And I wanted to build something. I wanted to implement. I wanted to have employees that I could lead and mentor and all of that. And so for me, it was just a door was opening for me, and I had to see it like that, because if I just wallowed in it, I just would have been stuck. And frankly, nobody wanted to hire me because I was the mayor of a pretty large city, and I had no degree. So like, what was that nobody wanted to hire me, even though I had 20 years of retail experience, like retail management experience. It was really a difficult time in my life. And it's like, I just had to buck up and figure out what I was going to do.
That's so funny because like I'll never forget talking to you and thinking like how blessed I was that I got to work with a woman who's the mayor. You know what I mean? Like that was like a huge bonus from my perspective, right? This incredibly powerful, awesome, strong woman wants to come and help me help other women. Like, so I don't know. I don't know that I believe that. I think that that's your self-talk. I think that anyone would be like through the moon to have you. And you know, our state is so lucky to have you working on this crisis because you're going to crush it if I know you.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to make a difference. And so hopefully, you know, all of those things I did will help me to get to that point. And I feel blessed to have been hired to do this job and to have been hired by you because you were really the first person who gave me a chance. It's a little daunting. I remember when the Walmart shooting happened, which of course is very close to home right now for me, because I was the mayor when that happened. And of course, what's just happened. But I remember calling you up. It was my second day of work. And I was like, I'm going to be late for work because this happened. And you were like, oh, you know, you were probably like, what did I do hiring her? But it was great to just have that support.
There was something about you, Heidi, that like, you know, it's interesting. I think sometimes women don't know their strength and their ability to do things. And I think it's so important for us to see women like you that do, because there was something about you that I knew that you'd be able to do it. I knew that you'd be able to be the mayor, be a mom, go to school and do the job at the women's chamber. There was this confidence about you that, and it wasn't false confidence. I just knew you had it. Like I never questioned it. And I think it's important for us as women to see that in one another, because oftentimes we think we hit our limit, right? Like, oh, there's no way I can make it through this. You know, like I shared with you, you know, my mom's kind of in her final days. And at first I was like, there's no way that I can make it through this. I can't, like, maybe I need to take a leave, but we are so much stronger than we think we are. And it's actually been a reprieve and a blessing to be at work during all of this, because I'm surrounded by like what I call warrior women that are kind of helping guide me through it. So it was never a question. You are a warrior. So you got it.
Thank you.
Okay, so what's a mantra that you live by?
I literally woke up at 3:00 in the morning and I couldn't go back to sleep. And I was like thinking, what is my mantra? So it was weird. I was just, you know, I don't usually wake up in the middle of the night, but I was like, what's my mantra? And you know what my mantra is? I don't know if it's a mantra, but it's like, I'm always living in this kind of anticipatory state, like something else is around the corner. And, you know, I've got this going on. And when this happens, this is going to happen. And so for me, it's really about just remembering to be thankful for my blessings, to, you know, sit in prayer and sit in and just remember how blessed I am. And I'm not good at that because I'm always going 100 miles an hour, even when I'm working from home. So that I think that's my mantra, is really just trying to remember how blessed I am. I have a beautiful family. I have a great job. I have friends like you and I have so many wonderful, beautiful friends. And that's been huge. And I will tell you the one thing that my husband, who of course is like my biggest supporter, he said to me, he goes, the best thing that ever happened with you becoming the mayor is that you've built this kind of friendship with all of these really strong women. And that's something that you really needed. So that's my blessings, you know, it's just remembering to do that. I think we all could use a little more of that, like self-reflection, meditation, prayer, whatever you call it.
Yeah.
Just remembering how blessed we are.
Oh, I love that. Well, I'm blessed to know you and have you in my network of women, and I miss you so much. We need to catch up over like in-person wine soon.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Thanks for
Heidi.
thinking of me. Thanks.
Love you.
Love you too.